Hello, KINES 55 students. Welcome to the class. My name is Lenny Wagner, and I will be your instructor for this semester. And this is our first lecture. And although nobody is attending live, I am recording this, and so all lectures will be recorded and they will be made available to you in the correspondence that I send to you through email. Right now, we have a little over 20 people in the class, and at some point, we would like to allow you guys to have some group discussions, and whether that's online through a chat room, I will set that up, but strongly encourage that. And it would be nice to see some of your faces and meet some of you. And so what I thought I'd do today, and what I typically do in the first lecture of this class, is explain to you guys what this class is going to be all about, and and I'll give you a good idea, and then also introduce myself to you guys, let you know who I am, and a little bit about my background. And typically, when we teach this class in a face-to-face format, we go around the room and the students introduce themselves, and we all kind of get to know each other. The way this class works the best is if we can get different perspectives other than mine and yours in this class. That really is just limited to 2 perspectives rather than 21 perspectives. And the more perspective we have on any issue in our life, the better decision making we're going to be. And so that's the concept of this class. In terms of there will be some interaction. A lot of our work's going to be through correspondence, but I really think there's great value in interacting with each other and hearing those different perspectives. So KINES 55, Coaching Sports, this class is designed to give you guys perspective on all things coaching A to Z. And we kind of start the class like somebody would start a career at the beginning level, and then we work through the coaching ladder and the different aspects of coaching and some of the different scenarios that are involved in coaching that you're going to need to deal with. And the class, I really, this was one of my favorite classes in college, and I want to try to make this class enjoyable for you guys. And so every assignment we do, I really hope that you choose a topic that you're genuinely interested in. And so that there's value to you, and it's something that you will carry forward and remember. I took a lot of classes in college where I was not that into the content, and then I took a lot of classes in college where I was very into the content, and I can tell you I did a lot better in the classes that I was really into the content because it was more important to me and it was interesting to me. So I would really strongly encourage you guys, as you go through the assignments that are involved with this class, that you make them about something that is interesting to you, and to have that opportunity to make that choice, I think is a pretty good way to go, because ultimately I want you guys to have a valuable experience from this class. And at the end of the day, feel like, wow, that was a valuable class that would really help me if I decided someday I wanted to be a coach. And so we're going to go from A to Z on coaching. And you know, when we start the class, at the beginning of the class, you know, to take any journey, and this is part of coaching, but it's just part of my introduction. But to take any journey, you need to establish your starting point. And so, like, if you're doing a workout program trying to lose 10 pounds, you assess yourself: where am I at right now? Where do I want to go? And that's really how you game plan in coaching too. So in this class, we're going to say, okay, this is where we are, and then we're going to start working towards all the nuts and bolts that go into being a head coach, being an assistant coach, being a coach of multiple sports, being a coach and a teacher. How do you get a job in sports? How do you get your foot in the door? But as we get into those topics, I think it's really important that we start with some self-reflection and think of things. So I'm going to give you your first couple assignments are really things that are going to hopefully make you think about maybe coaches that you've had or leaders that you've had or people that you look up to that have given you good advice over the years. Um, and and think about what you like and what you don't like, because ultimately what we're trying to do is figure out a starting point for each one of us as if we already are a coach. Okay, so the main approach to this class is that I'm going to treat you guys like you are fellow coaches that are just getting into the game. And so your assignments, in addition to being things that you're genuinely interested in, are going to be there's going to be questions that say, what would you do if you were the head coach of this program and this happened? And so things like that. So you need to start thinking about like a sport that you're really into, or a sport that you don't know anything about that you'd like to learn more about during this class. And so we're going to start with the beginning process of how you get into coaching. After we establish kind of what we are and who we are as a coach, then we're going to examine some coaching styles, and and then progress into, okay, you know who you are, or you think you know who you are. I'm 50 and sometimes I don't know who I am, but so that's a lifelong journey. But what I mean is, you know what kind of coach you think you would want to be, and and we've researched that, and so we're figuring out, this is our starting point, this is who I think I am right now in this moment in time, and this is the type of coach that maybe I would like to become. And then we start the process of, okay, how do we make that happen? What are all the steps, and what are all the things that are involved in that? And along the way, we're going to be watching a lot of videos from other coaches, professional coaches, college coaches, junior college coaches, high school coaches, youth coaches, all the way through the different levels. And we're going to examine each of those levels, because the reality is, if someday you become parents, and even if you weren't an athlete in college or high school or ever, and even if you have no desire to be a coach right now, um, you will be at some soccer practice with your son or daughter, and somebody's going to say, can anybody coach? And nobody's going to volunteer. And you might have you that this class might allow you to feel like you're capable of doing that, or empower you to feel like you're doing that, because kids need coaches. And when you get to the level when you have kids that are involved in sports, you want your kids to be mentored and coached by somebody that you know is a good person, and that you know is going to do the right thing. And whether they know anything about the sport or not, those are the two most important things when you're talking about your kids. And so if nobody's stepping up, I know it's happened to me many times. All of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're the head soccer coach, and now you're trying to figure it out. So there's value to this class, and in different ways. Maybe for some of you, it's right away because you can't wait to get into the coaching ranks, or some of you may already be coaches. Or if it's you end up being a youth coach, 15 years from now, you have some skills and you have some abilities that relate to coaching. And so that's what this class is about. And um, the really the essence of this class is how you manage and navigate your way into the job in coaching that you would like to have. Okay, and so and then then it's, how do you do that job? Okay, so um, that's an overview of the class, you guys. And as I mentioned, we'll be watching links from other coaches, and some of the readings will be on coaches that I think are important that you should know. Some of you guys have already turned in assignment number 1. I really appreciate that, and are working hard on week 2 and assignment number 2. If you guys are behind, don't sweat it. Get caught up. And I know everybody's going through their own challenges right now, including myself. Unfortunately, I was one of the victims of the recent fire, and so we're not at home and not at school. And so we're all dealing with our own stuff. So let's all have some grace with each other. So if you're running behind on something, I'm going to deal with that in a way that's with an open mind and understanding. if for some reason I'm having technical difficulties on one of my Zoom meetings or something like that, just know that I'm not in the ideal environment either. So we're all going through this together in our own way. And so I'm going to have a lot of understanding with you guys getting stuff turned in, but please turn it in and get a good grade in this class. This class, if you follow along and participate, this will be not this should be a class that you should get a good grade in. And so the only way that you're going to not do well in this class is to just not participate at all. Okay, so encourage you to participate as much as you can, but also with the understanding that you may have challenges at home, just like I do. All that being said about the class, who the heck is this guy talking to you? Okay, me, who am I? So some of you may know me, some of you may be student athletes at the college, and some of you guys may be new students at the college. My name is Lenny Wagner, and I am the head football coach. And in addition to being the head football coach at Santa Rosa Junior College, I am also the department chair for kinesiology, athletics, dance, and adapted physical education. And in addition to that, I am also the department chair of department chairs for the whole Santa Rosa Junior College district, along with one other person. So I have a lot of hats at the college. I've been here for 20 years, and this is my 30th year of coaching college football. And so I have a lot of experience. And although I'm only 50 years old, I say only, I got a really young start in my coaching career and just have gone through the ladder of coaching over the last 30 years. But I'm happy to say that I've been at Santa Rosa Junior College for the last 20, and it's been a wonderful experience. So without boring you too much about me, because we'll talk more about me and some of the scenarios that we'll talk about in this class, but I would like to give you a brief overview of who I am and where I'm from and stuff like that. So I'm originally a Southern California guy. I went to, I played youth sports my whole life and loved sports. I loved the camaraderie of being on a team. I loved the feeling of winning and being successful, and it really helped my self-confidence as a young guy, growing up as a young person, you know, and I played football, baseball, soccer, wrestling, and basketball, pretty much everything. I loved playing sports, and it was something that I was pretty good at. And so it gave me an identity pretty early on in my childhood. You know, I started playing sports when I was 7. And so it was just something that I loved. And it was something that as I went through school, it was the funnest part of the day. You know, I couldn't wait for PE, and I couldn't wait to go. You know, every time it rained, we were up at the school playing mud football. And every time it was sunny, we were playing basketball at the local basketball court and playing baseball and different things. And the friends that I hung with, that's kind of how what we all did. And so that carried on through high school. I went to a very good high school in Southern California called Troy High School. And I was fortunate to play for some great coaches. And my youth coaches were great coaches, and my high school coaches were great coaches. And we won at every team I was ever on. I was really lucky. I just thought that's how it was for everybody. We won a championship almost every year. Went deep into the playoffs every year. And so I really was brought up in a great environment of how to win, what is necessary to win, what good teams are like, and really started developing a roadmap for my coaching career really early, because I got to see some great examples of great coaches that were really, you know, just great dads and community people that were willing to give back. And so I know that's not the experience for everybody that goes through youth sports, but my youth sports in high school could not have been any better in terms of who the guys were that were the people that were coaching me. And there was a common thread with all these coaches that there was a couple of common threads with all these coaches that I had. They had all played at Fullerton Junior College for a guy named Hal Scherbeck. And when I got done playing high school football, I went to Fullerton Junior College and played for Hal Scherbeck. And so my lineage of being a player up until that point was really based on all the same principles and all the same techniques and really a lot of the same terminology and just a lot of similarities from youth sports to high school all the way to junior college, and all those coaches using the same philosophy of Coach Hal Scherbeck at Fullerton Junior College. So when I got to Fullerton Junior College, it was a really it was a really awesome transition because it was confirmation of all the coaches that I'd had up to that point. It was like I knew what their expectations were, and I was used to them. That was my normal. And so I went to Fullerton Junior College and played there for 2 years. Again, had two successful seasons. We played for the national championship my sophomore year, and we had a lot of Division I players on our junior college team. And I ended up going to a Division II school right down the road from Santa Rosa Junior College, Sonoma State University. And so when I got to Sonoma State University in 1989, they had just hired a new coaching staff, and it was a bunch of young guys that were just getting their first coaching job. So they were like 26, 27, 28 years old. And they were just getting their feet wet. And they came from good programs and they came from good coaches, and they were great coaches. And so once again, I went right from these great coaches at Fullerton Junior College right into the starting point for some great coaches at Sonoma State. And so when I got there at Sonoma State, our head coach was a guy named Tim Walsh, who went on to be the head coach at Portland State for 13 years, and he's the winningest coach in Portland State history. And then most recently retired from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo as the head coach. A guy named Gary Patterson was our defensive coordinator, and Gary Patterson is the head coach at TCU now and has been the NC2A Coach of the Year, I think 7 of the last 12 years. And just last week they beat Texas, which is a big win. Jaime Hill was our defensive backs coach, and Jaime was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers for a short time and coached major football all over the country, and now is retired. But coaches like that, the whole staff were guys that went on to do enormous things in coaching. And so I stepped right into a situation that was unbelievable. All these guys were trying to make a name for themselves. They were working hard. They were grinding, trying to turn the program around at Sonoma State, which had been not very good up until that point. And so, again, the lineage and the growth that I had as a student athlete, it changed. It just kept progressing and changing, and I was finding myself getting better and better and better because I was just getting reinforcement year after year after year. And in a lot of ways, it was like, you have your parents, and your parents usually kind of preach the same overall message to you your whole life. And sometimes in sports, you have coaches that teach different messages all along the way every time you change levels. I think I was really fortunate that I was able to have reinforcement of some really solid principles and ethics and work and sacrifice from those coaches, and it just continued on at Sonoma State. So played 2 years at Sonoma State, had a successful career there, and was the MVP 2 years. I don't brag about myself much, but this will be 30 seconds of bragging. I was the MVP 2 years in a row. I was the conference player of the week multiple times. I was all conference 2 years. I was on the honor society for student athletes. It was a successful career. And some years after I got done playing at Sonoma State, I was inducted into the Sonoma State Hall of Fame as a player for the years of 89 and 90. And I got to play with just some unbelievable guys that wanted to win. And the position I played was inside linebacker. And if you know football, you understand that what that position, takes. What a lot of people don't understand if you don't know football is that to be a good inside linebacker, what it takes is to have some great players around you and have great defensive linemen and DBs that are going to surround you. You're kind of in the middle all the time. And the better those people are around you, the better you're going to be. And so I was lucky to play with some unbelievable players at Sonoma State. And so I was fortunate to get recognized as a player, but all those guys should be recognized. They were awesome. So then right after I got done playing football, um, I was working in our athletic training room. I was on my road to be an athletic trainer, and the head coach, Coach Walsh, called me in and said, "What do you think about being a coach?" And I said, "Well, Coach, I'm in my fifth year already to get my bachelor's degree because I've changed my major 5 times, and um, I'm pretty far down the road to be an athletic trainer. I've got 2 classes left." And he said, "Well, think about it because we have a position available for you. We'd like you to coach our linebackers." And this was probably like 2 months after I just played my last game for him at linebacker. And um, it was really enticing. And even though I was pretty far down the road in the athletic training track of a kinesiology major, um, I really still had a passion for the game and felt like I felt like it was something I could be good at and I would enjoy as a career. And so I decided to scrap all my work as an athletic trainer and change my major emphasis one more time, which added another 5 or 6 classes through the coaching track in our kinesiology major. But it was worth it. And so right away, I got to work under Gary Patterson, and he was the defensive coordinator. I was the linebacker coach. And so being a linebacker coach and being a linebacker, it's the type of position you're basically the quarterback on defense. And so it's essential to your success and the success of the defense to know every position. And so to be tutored and mentored by Gary Patterson and the other coaches on that staff was such a pleasure as a player. And then it just took it to another level when I became a coach. And so I coached at Sonoma State for a couple of years under those coaches. And then a lot of those coaches moved on. As I said, they started climbing the coaching ladder and moving on to bigger universities. At the time, I had just started a master's degree at Sonoma State and was really starting to like Sonoma County and feeling like I was starting to become a part of a community. And so when these coaches left and moved on, I elected to stay at Sonoma State, which allowed me the opportunity to have a higher position on the coaching staff, which is something we'll talk about in one of those lectures. But um, so I coached there for a total of 6 years, and then they dropped football in 1996 after the 96 season. And um, when they dropped football, I was the assistant head coach. I was the defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, recruiting coordinator. I was doing a lot. And at the time, I was 26 years old. And so I literally started coaching at Sonoma State about a month after my 21st birthday and was working like a full-time coach for 6 years until they dropped football. Well, once again, when they dropped football, I had to make a decision. Should I take an opportunity with one of those coaches that went on to bigger universities that offered me jobs? Or do I stay at Sonoma State and finish my master's degree, which would open doors in different ways later on down the road? So it really was a question of, do I have the patience or am I the type of person, I had to do some self-evaluation, did I want to go chase the 4-year college job and climb that ladder? My other option was junior college, and the junior college I went to had such an impact on me. I decided to check into the local junior college, which at the time was Santa Rosa Junior College, and um, volunteer there for a year while I was finishing my master's and then seek out a full-time job with my master's degree. And so I coached there for 1 year, and then we went to a bowl game that year, had a very successful season. Keith Simons was the head coach and gave me a great opportunity to come in and learn from him and be at Santa Rosa Junior College and see what a really quality Northern California junior college looked like. And after that year, I accepted the job as the head coach at Mendocino College, which had been struggling. And so I coached there for 2 years. And in my second season there, we won the conference championship, had the best record in school history, and went to a bowl game. And then the full-time job opened up at Santa Rosa Junior College in 1999. And I left Mendocino College and I came to Santa Rosa Junior College and I've been here ever since. And over the years at Santa Rosa Junior College, I've done a lot of different things, um, and coached literally thousands of guys. I'm proud to say, as the head coach at Santa Rosa Junior College, we average somewhere around 98, 99% transfer rate of our football players. And the transfer rate is very high for all of our student athletes, but I'm speaking particularly to my team. And so I'm really proud of that. And you'll learn a lot about the culture of my program throughout this class, because you're going to be hearing perspectives from me. Um, and at this time in the class, this is when I typically would say, okay, now you guys know a lot about me. Let's find out about you. And so this would be a time when we'd go around the class and each one of you would introduce yourselves. And so since I am lecturing to myself right now, which is okay, I can handle it. And hopefully you guys, you're watching this and you'll watch the whole thing. I'd like to know a little bit about you. An added bonus to week two's assignments is to just shoot me a little paragraph. This is my name. This is my experience as an athlete. I'm currently an athlete. I'm not an athlete anymore, but I used to be an athlete. I'm interested in the coaching class because I want to be a coach, or I took this coaching class because I needed 3 units and it sounded more interesting than all the other classes. That's okay. This class, I'm hoping, will be not only entertaining, but fulfilling to everybody, even if you have very little interest in sports, because you're going to find out pretty quick in this class that coaching sports is way deeper than how to design a pick and roll or a power play or whatever. The X's and O's are the easy part. Coaching sports, there's a lot of depth um, if you want to do it right. And so we're going to talk about those things. And since I can't go around and listen to you guys, I thought we'd go right into our lecture. And we're going to talk about what is a coach. And again, a lot of you have done assignment number 1 already. And I typically like to give you guys information before I lecture on it. And so that when we do have a video or a lecture or we interact, you have some base knowledge of the conversation, which is going to make it a lot easier for us to communicate in the most effective way. And so let's talk about what is a coach. And so in a typical face-to-face class, I would be asking you guys to give me 1-word descriptors of what you think a coach is. And so over the years, I've compiled a list, and it was part of the handout that I sent to you guys in the emails, in terms of, I think it was labeled leadership. And so I thought I'd share my screen right now, and we could go through that. And one thing I forgot to mention to you guys, that I'm recording every lecture so that you guys could see the lecture at any time that you like. But if you do come to a lecture and you participate and we are engaged in some type of conversation that may involve personal stories or certain things that you may not want to be recorded, I'll always pause the recording during those parts of the class. And so we'd like you to feel comfortable in the class, being able to speak opinions. And since we're on that topic, one thing that I would really want to stress in this class is that people have perspective that's different. And thank goodness for that. It would be pretty boring if everybody had the same exact perspective. But your perspective, my perspective, everybody's perspective is based on a lifetime of experiences that develop that perspective. It's based on where you currently sit in your own world. Right now, I'm sitting in a bedroom looking out a window and looking at the Zoom screen, and that's my perspective. My house burned down, my family's safe, we're working towards getting a new house. That's my perspective. That's what I have That's where I see myself right now. So you could see that everybody's perspective is totally unique. And the reason I bring this up is because sometimes there's discussions that happen, and sometimes topics come up where you may not agree at all with somebody else's perspective. But in this class, and hopefully in life, because I think this is a good skill to learn, is that it's okay to have different perspectives. And it's impossible not to have different perspectives. And it's not my job, or it's not your job to um, change somebody's perspective. All you can do is offer the most information about your perspective, and maybe you enlighten them, or maybe that expands their perspective. But it's not our job. So that being said, if somebody says something that may seem totally out from left field, we don't need to be busting on people, or laughing, or we got to respect everybody's perspective. And I think that's really important, and it's something that you really need to learn in coaching, and we'll talk a lot about that. Your perspective is your perspective, and I respect your perspective, and I ask that you respect mine and everybody else's in the class. And so if we interact at some point, that's what you can expect from me. Um, so what is a coach? I'm going to share my screen right now, and we're going to go through that handout pretty quickly. And so these are descriptors that students in the past have come up with. And you look at that and you say, wow, okay, leader, organized, collaborator, flexible, amusing, supportive, listener, scapegoat, holy fool, prepared, target, the wolf, negotiator, visionary, overworked. And you guys can read the rest. When you look at those, I don't see, let's see here, I'm going to just make sure I don't contradict myself, but there's nothing on there about X's and O's. Okay, there's nothing on there about, coach, how do you get a first down when it's 4th and 1? Okay, so when you look at these leadership / coach descriptors, these are all things that involve people. These are all things that involve multiple perspectives, and these are all relationship type stuff. Okay, and so what you guys are going to find as we go through this class is that um, coaching is really about relationships. It's about relationships with your other coaches. It's relationships with your student athletes. Um, it's relationships with your administration, and positive and strong relationships in all those areas are only going to strengthen your program. And negative relationships on the opposite side of that really can tear your program or your team apart. And so relationship skills, these are things that will benefit you in any part of your life. And so as we go through this, we'll quickly go through this, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the coaching relationship as we define what is a coach / leader. Okay, so there are leadership strategies. And one of the things I did back when I was doing my master's work was I examined leadership strategies from professionals in industry like big business. And I looked at leadership strategies from coaches at different levels. And so a lot of this information is based on research that I've done over the years and my lifetime experiences as a coach. So leadership strategies, effective leadership equals stronger team. Okay, so as you look at maybe some of the teams that you've been on, or maybe just a group of people that you worked with at a restaurant or anywhere, and somebody's the boss, somebody's the leader, and I'm sure you've all had leaders that you said, man, I would show up early and work extra for that person. And then there's some people that you go, man, if he asked me or she asked me to do anything, I'm not doing it. We've all had good and bad examples like that in our lifetime. And if you haven't, you will. Okay. But effective leadership equals stronger team. That's what the research says in every area. Okay. Most leaders lean towards one of three styles. Okay. So this is in all forms of leadership. And as we look at these three examples, I'm sure there's probably images that come to your mind of people that you know or people that you know of that are like this. So the first one, you have the commanding leader. Okay. And sometimes these leaders, they lead from behind, which means that they're kicking you in the butt to force you in the direction that they want you to go. Okay. And they're going to lead you. They're very commanding, and they're going to be typically, some of the stereotypes of coaches being big loudmouths, and being goofballs. You hear the guys yelling and screaming. Some of those are true. I hate to say it. But coaching styles. Number one, commanding. Okay. Number two, you have submissive coaches. Okay. That the players, sometimes seems like they can do what they want. Um, and they allow the players to be actively involved in the leadership process, and they're not leading from the back typically. They're typically leading from trying to lead from the front. Cooperative coaching style. Okay, so a cooperative coaching style is what research says is the most successful. That's what the research says. So many experts agree that all these coaching styles can work based on other factors that include, but are not limited to, the following. Okay, relationships with players, age group, assistant coaches' personalities, program expectation. Okay, so let's quickly go through those. So you could be a commando coach, scream all day, okay, lead from behind and kick butt all day long on your players, your athletes, and um, it can work. It could also fail. I think the thing to understand is the best coaching style for you is the one that fits your personality the best, because all of these coaching styles will work. I have literally played for coaches that screamed at me, that threw footballs at me, um, and we won championships. I had coaches that were super quiet, and they would come and talk to you about how your day went and talk to you about nothing about football, and super successful, and everywhere in between. And I've had the fortunate lifetime and career to have success at every level of playing and coaching. And so when I think back of that, I say, well, what made all those people so successful, even though their coaching styles were so different? And they are these four things. And so you go into coaching, be yourself first off, because people know if you're a phony right off the bat. And so you don't try to be somebody you're not. So if you're a quiet person, you don't all of a sudden become a maniac coach, because that's not who you are, and it's going to be see through. Because if we're talking about, if we can all agree, okay, which you may not agree yet, but hopefully by the end of the class you will, that the majority of coaching is about relationships, um, then there's a trust. Okay, there's a trust there that needs to happen right off the bat. And so when I look at my coaches, I say, okay, I had a commando this year, this guy that year, this guy that year. The common thread with these coaches was that they all had relationships with the players. I had a relationship with every single one of my coaches. They knew who I was. They knew who my mom was. They knew who my brother was because he played before me, and they treated me with respect, and we had great relationships. I would eat dinner at my coach's house. Sometimes they would take me to church with them. Just different things, and so I had a relationship with every coach. And so when I have a coach, I think back of maybe the biggest commando coach might have been my junior college defensive coordinator, or it was one of my youth coaches. Um, they'll call you names and scream at you and tell you to do stuff and demand that you do stuff. Um, but because I had a relationship with them, I knew where that was coming from. They were trying to make me better than I wanted to make me. Okay. They were trying to take me as a human being and take me to a level that I didn't even know was possible for myself. And that was their technique. And, but I went into the scenario, um, after developing a relationship with them, I went into the scenario saying, okay, what they're telling me is in my best interest and they're looking out for me. And off the field, the conversations weren't always yelling and screaming. They were conversations that you would have with anybody as you're developing a relationship. You know, do you have brothers? Do you have sisters? You know, what do you do in your free time? Just stuff, getting to know people. So there was relationships in all those cases for me. And so I think, you know, and the experts agree, which is nice that it matches up. But having a relationship with it with every player now. Okay, so in the sport of football, it's really easy. You know, you might have 100 guys on your team. Do you have a relationship with the fourth string guy that never plays but shows up to practice every day? That's a good question to ask yourself. You need to. Okay, do you need that fourth string guy that never plays? You absolutely do in football. Your practice players sometimes in football are the most important part of your overall preparation for your next opponent. And so it's important that you know every player. And if you're coaching youth sports, they're all going to play. And if you want them to play to the best of their abilities, get to know every kid, not just the ones that are hitting home runs. Okay, so there was a relationship, and that's one of the key factors that made all those coaching styles work for me. And that's also what the experts say. The age group, obviously, you know, the age group is super important. If you're coaching young kids, you're trying to inspire them and give them a love for sports. Whether it's because you had great pizza parties after the game for a 7-year-old team, or you just were a great coach, or you just cared about them and you did the right things. Um, your age group is going to dictate some of who you are as a coach also, but it should never change the the relationship part. Okay, young kids, you can inspire them, and you know, them seeing somebody that looks like them, that is in a position of leadership. It gives them hope, like, you know, that someday maybe I could be like that. I know for me that's exactly what it was. When I looked at my coaches, I had so much respect for them, whether they yelled at me or they didn't yell at me. But the age group is really important. You don't want to scare kids away by being a commando with a 7-year-old t-ball team. Okay. The one thing I would say in terms of your relationships with your players and the age group factor in those relationships with your players, you need to treat every single player with the idea that you know that's somebody else's daughter or son. And someday when you have kids, um, you're very protective. And some of you may have kids already. Somebody treats your child wrong, um, that's a big deal. And you're gonna, you know, it's a big deal. Okay. And so the relationship part of that should never change. You guys, you want to inspire the young people, and as you get to the higher levels of coaching, where winning becomes more and more important, and may even your job may even rely on winning, then that changes a little bit as you go up, and we'll talk about that as we move forward on the class. This will be later on lecture. Your personality can work, and your assistant coach's personalities are key in that. Okay, for example, when I was the head coach at Mendocino College, um, I had all young guys that played for me, and they were my coaches, and some guys that played with me, and they were all young, and they were all, you know, still living the young single life, and were just out of college. And so most of those guys, their coaching style was kind of more like a player coach. They were so young and just so fresh out of the game that they related really well with our players. But they lacked kind of the authority part, because there has to be lines and boundaries for everything that you do as a coach. And so they lacked some of that, because some of that comes through experience. And so on that coaching staff, I had to be a lot of commando, more commanding leadership than I would like to for my personality. But I think it's important, when you talk about your assistant coaches, that you have different personalities on your staff if you have the ability to have a staff. And I think that players, um, they react differently to different coaches. And if your whole coaching staff coaches exactly the same way with the same personality, um, you're not going to reach as many of the players as you could if you had a more diverse staff um, in terms of their coaching style. And diversity, obviously, well, not obviously, but I would just throw a plug in there for diversity. Um, People want to play for people and learn from people that have been through as many of the same life experiences as they have, or as close to. That's important. And so, what type of coach you play for, um, it should be a diverse group. And if you have the ability, like a football staff, we have 14 coaches on our staff, and we have uh, all kinds of different personalities on our staff. We have guys that yell and scream all day. We have guys that you'll never hear out on the practice field because they're having quiet conversations with players and coaching them in that way. And then you'll hear coaches everywhere in between. But at Mendocino College, I had to be the loudest voice on the field because all my young guys didn't have that. And so as the head coach, what I have, part of my job is to determine the personalities of my assistant coaches, and then I need to fill in the gaps anywhere where we need something, because again, the goal is to reach as many of the people as possible, to have as much buy-in as possible. And as we move forward in this lecture, we're going to start talking a little bit about buy-in. The last one that should help, that you need to understand in terms of developing your coaching style, is what are the expectations of the program? And just to give you a quick example, are they going to fire you for coaching 7-year-old soccer if you go 2-8? Probably not. They probably wouldn't even fire you at a junior high or even a high school unless you went 2-8 every year, okay, for multiple seasons. Would they fire you as a junior college coach? Probably the same as high school. Okay. If you were a university coach or a NFL or Major League Baseball or WNBA, NBA, and you go 2-8, they might fire you halfway through the season. Okay. So there's different expectations at different levels. And you need to know what those expectations are, because that is going to allow you to really develop your coaching style in a way that's appropriate for the team that you're coaching. Okay. All right. Moving forward here, I'm going to have a little coffee, keep me going. All right. Leadership, leaders, coaches in a nutshell. So, along with all the relationship stuff that coaches do, your job is to cast a vision, create a positive team culture, instill values, motivate the team, resolve conflicts, communicate effectively. Again, those are all, to me, those are type of relationship type things. And so, as we talked about earlier in this lecture, that anytime you start a journey, you need to know where you are. And that's why we're talking about this right now, is it's a self-assessment and where we are, and then we're going to start moving forward. So these are some characteristics that we're going to talk about throughout this class. Best practices, okay? Look to areas where successful leadership determines your fate. What is the common denominator? Okay, so the common denominator for success of any team is buy-in from that team. Okay, and we're going to have a whole lecture on ways to help create buy-in. But buy-in, in a quick, real summarized definition, means that you are bought into the cause. You believe in what the team believes in. You are you're in it to win it. Okay. You're bought in. Okay. You're willing to make sacrifices for the overall success of the team. Okay. Because you believe in the culture of the team and you believe in the team. Okay. That's buy-in. And so if buy-in is the most important aspect of coaching sports, okay, in terms of your success, we're going to really examine buy-in, and relationships are a big part of the buy-in, because the stronger the relationship you have with each individual student athlete on your team, the more buy-in you're going to have from each one of them. And ultimately, when that buy-in is put all together in a team, you're going to have a very strong team if everybody's bought in. Okay, when you think of people that aren't bought in, those are people that take away from the strength of the team. The people that say, oh man, the coach is playing favorites, or I'm not going to practice today, it's not that important, or I'm going to schedule to get a haircut during practice time and not show up to practice, or, you're just not bought in. It's not important to you. Like, you could do it, it's kind of fun, but you're kind of not really into it. And I'm sure that all of you guys have had experiences, even with yourself, where you weren't really into something and you're just not as good at it when you're not really into it. And then you think of something that you're fully engaged in, 100% in the moment, in that second right there, okay, and you're bought into that moment. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And so when you look at areas that have the most buy in, these are some areas that I researched. Okay. Big business, they're bought in because they want to make money. So leaders are going to say, we got to hit our benchmark for this quarter financially. And if we do, everybody gets a $10,000 bonus. Or if we don't hit this benchmark, we're laying off 15 people. Okay. It's motivated by money, much the way college athletics is. Okay. We have the COVID going on right now. And, the student athletes that are participating have nobody advocating for them. And the college is making the decision that they need to play football, because if they don't, we're going to lose billions of dollars. Okay. That's motivated by the money. Okay. That decision. So big business is going to be motivated by the dollar signs. And so there's buy-in to make that money because people like making money. Okay. Church, there's great buy-in at churches, right? So you go to a church, people believe, people have faith, people have a relationship with their God, whoever that is. And there's crazy buy-in with religion. Some religions, the buy-in is so strong that people be willing to give up their own life for their religion and their beliefs. And you look at, why are people so bought into church and religion? Well, the motivation is different. Church and religion offer some common themes regardless of what religion it is. Religion is about, I have a purpose. I am a part of the overall big plan. I have a relationship with my God. Whatever religion you are, I'm going to love people. I'm going to be good to people. I'm going to be a good person. There's a lot of common themes in churches, okay? But a lot of that is relationship type stuff. It's feeling like you're a part of something and you're bought into it. And so a good church is going to really create a family atmosphere and make it really inviting, because the stronger the church and the more people. And you look at, some of those characteristics, like how do you make somebody feel like they have purpose on your team when they never play in the games? Okay. If we're trying to get buy-in, and we're going to use church as an example, you're talking to the fifth string guy and you say, hey man, you have a purpose on this team. And although you don't get to play on Saturdays, you serve a huge purpose on this team. You get to know that person and you explain to them what their role is and what their purpose is and how important that is. And so that everybody on your team feels like they not only have a purpose, but they have a role, and it's important to the success of the team. And then you compete and the best guys play. Okay. So I think players understand that concept a lot better when you have defined roles and you have gone through this process of developing a relationship. And then coaching, I think coaches are the best leaders. And I'm not talking about myself right now, but Coaches, in terms of leaders, it's rare that leaders get report cards. Okay, coaches get a report card on the sports page after every game if they're a college or high school coach or higher. So if we play a game, we go play San Francisco City College or we play Butte College and we win, the next day in the sports page, Bear Cubs win, beat Butte. Okay, we passed the test. Okay, our grades, if you put this in, in terms of we're teachers, we pass the test. We lose the game, that's also in there. And so coaches are constantly being evaluated, fired, hired, and many coaches are really good at being leaders, and so they're able to find other jobs if they do get fired, or fix a program that may be broken. Okay, so coaches are really good. So you look at the best practices of coaches and you say, who are the best coaches? Let's look at the best practices. What did they do to get the buy-in? And that comment right there, what have successful coaches done to get buy-in? Let's look at some of the experts. And part of your assignment for the first week was to read some information on a guy named John Wooden. And I'm not going to say much about him right now because we're running out of time and I want to be respectful of your time. But we look to great coaches, and that's going to be part of our coaching examination in determining what kind of coach we are. We're going to study a few coaches early in this class. So what do we need for buy-in? Well, we need a team, number one. Every leader needs followers. And if you're out there by yourself and no one's following you, you're not really a leader. An expectation level. What are the expectations? And that's a whole conversation that we'll talk about. Passion, whether you're a commando, whether you're submissive, whether you're a cooperative coach, you need to be passionate about what you're doing if you want your players to be passionate. Do players play better when they're passionate? Absolutely. And so they're going to follow your lead. And I hate to say it, but winning really creates buy-in too, even sometimes for bad coaches. Sometimes coaches just have all the best players and they're not very good coaches, and players still buy in because they just win. And that's a whole nother type of buy-in. It's a little different than real buy-in, in my opinion, because when adversity hits, then the buy-in changes. Okay, if you're in it to win it and you're truly in it and you're bought in, you go through those hard times, that's when you pull together the most. And so teams that sometimes are motivated or have their buy-in because they win don't usually handle adversity very well because they lack the foundation in their program of having the true buy-in. Okay. Okay, so creating buy-in, you guys have this. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you take a look at the picture down on the bottom, and that pretty much explains it. If every single one of those kids is not bought in to walking on those boards, then those boards don't move. And that's a team. Okay. So please read through these on your own. You guys have this handout in the emails that I've sent to you. And you also have the leadership strategies. And so we're going to be going through these too, but wanted to define what a coach is today and a leader. And so I think in a 1-minute description, you would say a successful coach may have different personalities, but should have these qualities. They should be attempting to develop a relationship with their players. Okay. They should be attempting to create buy-in and team and a culture that is healthy and that is going to empower young people to move forward in their life. And so it's complex. And so there's a lot to talk about in this class. And I'm really looking forward to going through each step with you guys. And I hope that you got something out of this lecture and that you're enjoying the assignments. I mean, that sounds crazy. How could you enjoy homework? But if there's a way to do it, please we want to find something that you're genuinely interested in that pertains to this class, and so that you're never doing something that's not interesting to you. With that being said, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I will do another Zoom meeting next week at the same time, and hopefully some of you can attend. If there is some times that are really convenient for the whole class, we may try to do something at a different time. But for now, to keep some consistency, we'll be going every Wednesday from 12 to 1. And again, it's not mandatory that you attend these Zoom meetings, but it is mandatory that you watch them and you respond to anything that is brought up in them. So the assignment from this Zoom meeting is just one little addition to your week 2 assignment, and that is to send me a little paragraph about who you are. And it can just be an email. That's perfectly okay. And so far, as I looked at the assignments from week 1 that you guys have turned in, you guys are doing a good job and following instructions. So thank you. It's 1:01 right now. We started at 12:01. That's an hour. And that's, I've probably put all of you to sleep by the time this recording is over, but maybe not. I hope not. And I look forward to working with you guys for the rest of the semester. Have a great day. Be safe and vote